Welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host here, and my guest today comes from Canada, Akeen Kidder. Welcome to Fiberchats.
Yeah, thank you. Hi.
So we actually met at Gogh, and I was sort of walking by, and then I was stopped in my track because I saw your art, and I had to take a closer look to see what it was. And we started conversation, and that's how we've met.
Hi, my name is Akeen Kidder. I'm known as the Yarn Art Guy. I make art by hot gluing yarn onto canvases.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
It is, exactly. It's like the front page.
You're not only an artist, you also an engineer. How, in your view, does that get together? Because like when I'm thinking engineers, like I'm thinking, math heavy, practical, logical kind of people. And then art is the complete, like go with the flow, like do what you feel like. How is that happens in your life?
Yeah, so actually, I think it is a balance. You need a balance in life, like when you really like doing the maths or something more logical, you need something that lets you kind of do your own thing to balance it out. Because if your whole life is just like using your right brain, well, then your left brain gets lazy. If you're using your left brain, then your right brain gets lazy. So I like to balance it out. So in my work day, it's really structured and tough. So to relax and unwind, I like to do art. I've always been artistic in that way, in that sense. Um, so yeah, it was my method to finding a balance.
Well, your mom mentioned that you were really good at stick figures back in the kindergarten. What's your first memory of like creating art?
Yeah, so my mom was always my biggest, push into creating, She's like, yes, you do what you have to do for school to do it properly, but also, express yourself artistically because it's something I always enjoyed doing. So, my first memory artistically was probably like finger painting. There's a painting of like my hand that I turned into like a turkey for Thanksgiving. That's like the biggest memory I have.
I've heard one of your interviews and you mentioned that you use projector to trace the lines and just because you don't think yourself great at drawing. Think of art, like how much of that skill is necessary, like to call yourself an artist? Like, what do you need? What kind of skills do you need to call yourself an artist?
Yeah, so that story of I can't really draw is not super true in the sense of like it's impossible for me to draw. Because in the past, before I got my projector, I used to sketch it. But the thing is, it takes me long. So I'm not like those person that, oh, draw me something, and then I draw something really quick and it's really nice. But if you give me the time to draw it, I could draw something that's better than average. So I think I kind of joke around when I say I can't draw, but I'm not the best drawer. With regards to getting the skills, I think with everything artistically is practice. Some people are talented at certain aspects, but if you practice, you'll get there. So I think an important thing too is finding what you are naturally good at. So for me, it's more painting and sculpting, and then putting more effort and practice into that, developing those skills. So if I were to try to focus on the drawing part and developing those skills, I would probably get better.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
your story sort of started in a dollar store. Let's recreate that moment, right? You went
Yeah, okay.
to a dollar store and then tell me that story.
I love saving money. I love being able to not spend too much money. So you'll always find me in the dollar store, whether it's for some snacks or some art supplies or anything. Especially with art, I just started for myself. So I didn't think to myself, oh, I need a $25 canvas. I just thought I needed a canvas. So I go to the dollar store. When it comes to yarn, um, it was really just something when I was in the dollar store, trying to think about what artistic project I could do next. The bright colored yarn was just calling my name, and it was soft. So like the texture was speaking to me too. And that's really why I credit the dollar store for all my things. Like right now, people ask for advice about like their glue gun. Oh, which glue gun should I use? I still use my dollar store glue gun. I have some for bigger projects that is a bigger glue gun, but for my canvas projects, I'm still using my dollar store glue gun because as long as if it's not broken, don't fix it, you know?
Well, tell me about the first project you've done with yarn and glue gun. What was it, and like what gave you the idea?
Yeah, so my first piece wanting to do yarn was really because I have this like urge to be special. Like I need to stand out, and everyone I know would draw and paint, but working with yarn is something I hadn't seen before. So it started because I saw the Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh, and the brush strokes look like strands of yarn. So I was like, I could recreate this with yarn. So I went to the dollar store, got my yarn, got my glue gun, got everything from the dollar store. Just like it was a project that no one knew about. I didn't have to invest a crazy amount. I just wanted to try to do something interesting. And then on top of that, I was like, okay, you know how the Starry Night is like lots of blues and the yellow in the sky. Let's do an inverse. Everything that's blue, I'm gonna make it red, and everything that's yellow, I'm gonna make it orange. Like trying to be really artistic with it. And then turns out I didn't buy enough yarn. So I started working with the red, and then I had to go back to blue, and then it was just like all over the place. But looking back at it, I was like, okay, it didn't come out the way I imagined it to, but there's something here that is different. You could tell with the texture that this is a fun medium. Like you said, when you saw my stuff, you were like kind of stopped and you looked at it. I like to think that people think my stuff is like a painting. Okay, you get closer to it, you realize there's like a texture to it, and it starts a conversation.
Well, when I looked at your paintings, it sort of like brings you closer because you understand suddenly there is something textural going on there, and so you come closer to look at it, and suddenly you see that it's yarn, and it blows your mind for a second, right? But then there is so many shades, and especially when you do portraits, there's so many variations of like different shades to show the skin, like the highlights of the skin. How did your yarn collection grew from that first dollar store purchase?
Yeah. It grew fast. So the good thing about what I do is when I make a piece, I don't have to use too much yarn on a singular piece. So that's a benefit, or else my house would be covered in yarn. So right now, my yarn collection is not too excessive. I do live with my fiance now, so she limits how crazy I can go with it. But like you said, I try to find complementary shades of different colors. So as I'm working on different pieces, I don't want all of my portraits to be the exact same shade. So even though the person is the same shade of brown, I would like each piece to have a unique kind of color scheme. So when I go out to pick out which colors I use, I kind of lay a couple levels of a brown, let's say, beside each other and try to gauge it visually to see if they're complementary. And then I'll start working on the piece, and then maybe I'll need a brown that's a little bit lighter than what I bought. And then I'll go back and buy another one. But more and more, I'm trying to make do with what I have, because I do have a lot of yarn, and I try to get people who have scrap yarn, little balls of yarn left from their projects to donate to me, so I could say that I'm more sustainable and reusing art. Because for me, like if you're making a sweater, you need the full thing of yarn and it's all used, and you might end up left with like a little ball like this big of yarn, and you can't really do anything with it. Well, me, that little ball of yarn, I could probably make a whole piece with it.
Okay, guys,
depending on
like
what it
you're
is.
paying attention here, right? So if you have those extra little balls of yarn, you know
Send them.
where to donate them to. Yeah, so like you're gonna send me your information about
Yeah, the
how
PM.
it can be
Yeah.
donated, and we're gonna get
Yeah.
you some yarn probably.
Yes.
Well, when you think about next project, what brings the idea? Like, do you base it? Does the yarn bring the inspiration? Do you seek inspiration like in music? Like, where is that coming from?
Well, a little bit all over the place. When I first started, it was more about practicing my craft. So it was the simpler, the better. I'm big into Disney. I'm a Disney adult, so it was okay, what cartoons can I remake just to learn how to properly glue on the yarn, how to properly um, manipulate the what I'm working with. And then as I move forward, I get some commissions, so that's easily, figures out what I want to do. Or now what I like to do is more series. So like my portraits, it was a series. I would then think an animal, just things that are inspiring me at the moment. The more I work on new pieces, the more I want to challenge myself with the yarn. So I start with a simple cartoon where it's similar to this piece where it's is blocks of colors, which is not too challenging. And then you move towards one of my portraits that you could see on my business card. It's really strands of yarn intertwined. So I like more and more to do things that are challenging.
How did you figure it out yourself? Because, like, when I'm looking at your portraits, right, the yarn goes into every direction and it sort of creates this 3D effect of like muscle and shadows and all of it. So, how did you learn that?
I don't know. I was always artistic. I was always practicing, so I'm self-taught for all of my artistic skills. But I'm very visual. Maybe this is where my engineering part comes into to play, where there's a structure in reality that I would like to follow. So, for example, the cheeks, like when you look at someone's cheek, though you don't really see where it moves, we all know that a cheek is like this. Your cheek doesn't go like this, right? So when I'm working with yarn, you're going to be able to see where the strands are going. So I have to take that into consideration when I'm putting it. So when I'm making your cheek, I'm always doing it from the bottom of your face to the front of your face because that's the flow of you can observe in reality.
When you look at people, when like you meet somebody, do you think of them in terms of yarn?
You and yarn. Yes, everyone is yarn to me. Well, so no, because right now my portraits was my biggest challenge yet. Even drawing and painting, I do not like making faces. And I still don't accept custom orders of personal portraits because I still find it's very difficult to properly capture the essence of a person. A lot of the portraits I already have are based off pictures that already exist that could help give me a guideline. When it's a person, a regular person, it's a little bit harder to properly capture what they look like. But like I said, I do like a challenge, and I think in the next year, that's going to be something I offer.
When you did your own portrait, was that more difficult or less difficult?
Yeah, so I did a portrait of myself before I knew how to properly do the shading levels. So I just wanted to do it because I think every artist should have a portrait of themselves that they remake every couple years just to see where they are artistically. Um, so for me, it was easy because it was for me. So I knew that if I make myself portrait, I'm not showing it to you so that you like it. I'm not showing it to you so that you buy it. It's really for me. So that there's a sense of relief, uh, a sense of ease, and just having fun doing it to see if you can do it. And then it came out and I liked it. It was a fun piece. And if you were to look at my portraits now and look back at that one, you'd be like, wow, it's like, was it made by the same person? But for me, that's like I take pride in the fact that I was doing something for myself.
Right. You're coming from a very interesting family. Your mom is French Canadian and your dad is Jamaican. Do you feel like it influences your art and like how you choose your projects?
Yeah, I would say on my dad's side, the colors, like I really do like the Rastafarian, the reggae colors, in that sense. But more than that, I don't think artistically I'm too influenced by my parents, but just kind of in how I treat people and how I present myself as like always wanting to inspire others to do things. I think that comes from my parents for sure.
And I've listened to you interviewing your mom, and it was very easy to see your connection and how tight you are. Do you
Mhm.
get your sense of humor from her as well? Because you put
Oh yeah.
together a pun book about that
Yeah.
books, right? Like, where do you think your sense of
Yeah.
humor comes from?
Yeah, I'm super close with my mom. And you're referencing like Q&As. I used to do a lot of Q&As, and I would bring my mom in because she's very fun. She's all over the place, and it definitely influenced my sense of humor. But I'm a big TV watcher. I love sitcoms. I also love like poetry and rapping. So I think puns are really just like rap poems almost that are funny. So that's where they came together. And the dad joke book that I put together was really just a way to have something more affordable for people to buy to support what I'm doing, because I know not everyone can afford an original art piece. So I wanted to put together something that represents me and how silly and fun I could be, which you could see on my Instagram videos. I try to make some funny videos. So it represents me, but also can just be a way to support what I'm doing overall.
And you also do prints of your work. So if people cannot afford to buy the original work, they can buy prints of your work. Is that correct?
Yeah, most of my works, well, most of my portraits, I do have print versions of it, but they are limited edition. I like to be able to offer something more affordable that people can support or collect. But once I sell the original piece, or once I sell out my limited edition, then it's done.
When you work in the like 9 to 5 job and then you do your art in your free time, do you consider yourself an artist? Do you consider yourself an engineer? Like when you introduce yourself to people, what comes to mind first?
Well, so I've been doing my art for now since 2017, I would say, so about 6-ish years. And for the first 3 years, I would still say introduce myself as an engineer. In Canada, we get an iron ring that indicates that we're engineers. So most people in Canada, if you just look at my hand, you'll know. And obviously, I went to school for it. I have a lot of pride in the fact that I'm an engineer, and I would introduce myself as an engineer. But now, as I'm trying to make the transition into an artistic career, I want people to know that I am an artist. So when they say, "Oh, what do you do?" I'll be like, "Oh, I'm an artist." Oh, what kind of art you do? And then it becomes a conversation, and or I can make the joke as like, "Oh, I'm an artist, but I'm an engineer for money." Like that's how I make money. But right now, I now have the mentality of taking my art seriously and trying to become an artist. So I lead by introducing myself as an artist.
I mean, is that the ambition of yours to become a full-time artist?
Yeah, definitely.
So do you
Definitely.
remember like that moment when art stopped being a side hustle and became your main thing?
I don't know. I don't know if I can say that it's even happened yet because I still do work full time. But my mentality is slowly shifting. I would say at the end of, well, mid last year, when I was getting people reaching out for different opportunities, like being invited to Vogue was honestly a great experience for me, a great honor for me. And then all throughout last year, getting invited to different art shows, going to speak at elementary schools to encourage creativity, things like that really showed me that what I want in life is to be able to inspire others to be creative and see the importance in having a creative outlet, and that's a lot more satisfying to me right now. So that's where I want to go.
Well, you also mentioned that you doing some exhibits and you sell some of the things to raise money for certain causes that important to you.
Mm.
In the same article, you shared that you actually blank your calculus 1 and you had to retake it. Like, how
Oh
much
boy.
about yourself do you share with your audience? How much do you think it's important for them to know you as a person, to understand you as an artist?
Yeah, I think it's important to share as much as my fiance feels comfortable with. You know, I'll never go into our personal relationship, but besides that, when it has to do with me by myself, I think it's important to be honest and vulnerable, especially as an artist, especially online, because now online you go on someone's Instagram and it's all success. Oh, look how great this is. Look how great that is. But I like to show that we're all human. We all have our failures. We all have times where we expect something. We try to work towards something and then our goals aren't met. How do we deal with that? And a lot of the time now, people just see like the fake part of what everyone's going through. But I think it's important to like put yourself out there and you could connect with more people like that because we all have those moments. No one has a perfect life, you know.
Well, what's Instagram and social media in general is for you? Like, how do you treat it? Is that a marketing tool? Is that your place to get inspirations, to meet other people?
Yeah, for me it's a marketing tool, but also how I speak to people. Like I like to build my community as I'm trying to do and interact with people, like some have some relationships there that turn into friendships that we could, you know, you could reach out for advice and things like that, but also know that to reach a wide public because you know you need to make money is also a marketing tool. So trying to find that balance between like I'm a human person, but also I'm a brand. So that's what it is right now. And I'm working on that. It's hard. It's hard, especially when you don't have any experience in like social media marketing and you always had your online um, social media as a normal person. So I just see it as like, oh, it's just my Instagram. But other people might see it as it's the yarn guy's Instagram. So like that's a brand. So it's trying to find that balance because a lot of people see an online brand and like don't realize that there's humans behind that. So I try to link mine so that people know like, yes, I'm a business. I'm trying to build something here, but also I'm a human person.
Well, let's talk about your fiance. You mentioned her a few times.
Oh snap.
How supportive is she of you becoming an artist? And I mean, she's in some of your videos. You even managed to steal her voice once.
Yeah. Let's just start with the compliment. I stole her voice because she's an amazing singer, and that's the one thing I don't have. I like to write music, write mostly raps. So I hopefully she and I can work together on making an album or something. But she's super supportive. Like if you saw at my booth, I have my tablecloth, I have my signage, a lot of those. I have my table with my name and a QR code on it. All that was she made that for me. She has a Cricut. She cut it out, put it together for me. She comes to my shows, helps me set up, and just and communicates with different people to try to, you know, build my brand up. So she's super supportive, and she believes that I have something here, though maybe it might start slow. We both believe that, you know, I have something on my hands that could be special. So super grateful.
When you see now other artists, have you met anybody who does what you do, or like you unique on the market and nobody else glues yarn?
Yeah, so I to be honest, I thought I invented gluing yarn onto the canvas. When I started doing that, I was like, wow, I just broke the mold. I don't know. But then I started doing my research and found that there's either Mexican or Native American traditional art forms that they make tapestry like this. So that was interesting to look into. I was trying to communicate with people to see if, there's like, I want to show respect if it's a traditional art form. So I've reached out to people to see, like, is there anything with me doing this that, is stepping on any grounds that I shouldn't be? And it was all returned with, no, just enjoy yourself, have fun. For us, using bright, vibrant colors was representative of something, and that's how art works. Like, for us, it could represent one thing, for you, it could represent another thing. As long as it's not done with hate, it's great. So that was really comforting. I've been trying. People have been reaching out to me saying they've been trying to do yarn art, which is great. That's the goal, to get people to create. Yes, yarn art, what I do, but just create in general. Be creative. I think that's important. And then just doing my research, I see people in Russia and in no one in North America, put it that way, that I really see actively doing this. I'm trying to reach out to people that do it so that I could get some advice from them. But the thing that I'm seeing for myself is, like, I'm the only one that does like pop art version of it. So a lot of the times it's mosaics or just like animals, but I do a little bit of everything.
Have you considered into creating kits for your art that other people can recreate? Because it is similar to painting by number. Like, is it possible
Yes.
to teach kids or adults to do it?
Yeah, I definitely want to do that. I've been brainstorming it, especially after going to Vogue, seeing other people have that as an option. It's definitely something I want to do. The thing I'm thinking about now is the glue, because I notoriously use a hot glue gun. But when I teach, like, I've gone to a school to kind of teach kids how to do it, and you have to use a cold glue. So I need to find the right glue for these kits, but making a kit and selling a kit is definitely something I'm looking into and I want to do.
Right. Tell me about your dreams. Like, if the work didn't interfere, if money wasn't a problem,
Yeah.
what would you do? Like, is there a big dream for some time in the future?
So, not crazy, nothing wild. Ideally, I would just be creating every day. I would have something like, 20 or so commissions a year that I could slowly just go through creating art for other people. I would love to go to schools or community centers and just kind of spread the message of creativity, the importance of creating. Um, I would love to have the time to write a novel. I have ideas about different kind of fiction novels. So something just relaxed where I could just spread a positive message and just be creating. So I'm not one of those ones that would really want an art shop or anything like that. It's not really my vibe. But I always want to be, creating new work.
Is there something that limits you to certain size of your portraits? Like, can you create something that's going to be like 12 foot tall?
Yeah. So the limits right now, besides like time and space, because I do all my work from my house. So I don't have like a studio where I have the space to do anything. But for especially my portraits, but just my work in general, I like the fact that they're smaller because that makes it more difficult to make the faces. If I were to do them on a bigger canvas, is actually easier. It just takes longer because the paint by number spots are bigger. So, like, doing the detail, like if you were look at my Biggie portrait, you see in the eyes there's one piece of yarn that's the black of the eye, one piece of white yarn, and another piece of yarn that closes it. So, like, if I mess up how that flows, the whole eye is messed up. So I like the challenge in that sense. I don't think people realize that at that size is like more challenging. But if people were interested in bigger pieces, or as I look into going into galleries and things like that, I know I'll have to make bigger pieces because that's what people like. So right now it's just a question of time and space.
Tell me about the biggest mess up you ever made.
Well, so there's one that comes to my mind. I'll try to think. Is there any other one? Okay, well, besides the fact that I put glue all over my house, my glue gets stuck everywhere. The biggest mess up I made on a piece was I made a PK Suban piece. I don't know if you're familiar. He's a hockey player. He was from Montreal. He has a hospital in Montreal. And when I eventually sell his piece, I plan to donate the funds to his children's hospital in Montreal. But when I was working on his piece, his lips, I put as like a pink lips, regular lips, but with his brown skin tone, it really stood out and looked like lipstick. So this is where I learned, do I have the tool near me? I had to get kind of a tweezer tool and rip it off the canvas. So I ripped it off the canvas and then I tried again with a darker red and it still looked like lipstick. So I ripped it off the canvas again and then went with kind of a reddish brown and it looked good. But now if you turn the piece around, like so from the front, you can't tell that anything happened. But from the back where his mouth is just ripped. So that's funny. But now that's a good tool to have to not be so scared to make a mistake and know that okay, if I put a piece the wrong way, I could take it off and fix it.
Have you ever burned yourself with the glue gun?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I like to say that when you get a piece from me, you really have my blood, sweat, tears, and maybe like my burnt skin a little bit onto it. Is a part of me, you know. But that like right now, as I tell people how I work on yarn and if they want to how I make my yarn paintings and if they want to try it out, I suggest they use like a Elmer's or like a textile glue that's colder because yes, you do burn yourself. I just thought hot glue is the best when working with like a textile onto a canvas. I just thought that was true. And then I bought on Amazon like 1,000 glue sticks. So I'm the type that's not gonna use another glue until I use all the glue I bought. And it just kind of became part of my story of how I make my work, that I use the hot glue gun. So that's like the only reason I'm really using the glue gun at this point. But it's fun. It's fun to tell the story. Yeah, I burned myself here and there, but I love to do it, you know? So
I would be really curious if you bored one day and you just want to count how many sticks are left out of that 1,000. That would be an interesting number.
yeah, yeah. I should do it. Yeah, that's funny.
Do you truly hate Brussels sprouts?
No, now I eat everything, okay? That was back in the day. I don't know where you heard that fake news propaganda. I don't know who you're talking to. But I'll tell you this, if I could plug my brother's restaurant in Montreal. My brother is a chef in a restaurant called Mauvais Garçon, and he makes Brussels sprouts with like feta and like bacon. I don't know if you call it a vegetable anymore. It's so much stuff in it, but like I tell people if there's any food you don't like, have my brother make it for you. If you still don't like it, then you really don't like it. So now there's nothing that I don't like.
That sounds delicious, actually, as a
Yeah,
combination.
it's really good. Yeah, it's really good.
How do you balance your day? Like you have your fiancé to take care of, you have work, you have art, you have restaurant to visit.
Yeah.
How do you balance it all?
Well, I keep a journal and I keep an agenda. So I like to write everything. Um, so I like to usually on the weekends plan out my week, what I'm doing. Some of my work days are more flexible than others. So I'm able to like right now is a work day, but I have time until 3 o'clock to take. And if I need to work a little bit later, I do. But I try to map out what I'm doing in a day. Once you have it written down, you can move stuff around, and it usually works out pretty well.
You mentioned that you have commissions. Do you prefer working on commissions, or do you prefer the inspiration strike and you make it and whoever is going to buy your art is going to buy your art?
Mhm. I prefer just making whatever I'm inspired to make. Like that's my preference. But there is a benefit in getting customs in the sense of, there's a guaranteed income at that point, and then also sometimes as an artist, I don't know if it's just me, but as a creator, you create something and then you get attached to it. So you're like, oh man, I don't know if I could sell that. What would I sell that? I want it. Like, and then you end up with 50 art pieces in your closet that you just feel attached to. So when you get a custom order, you can give it without feeling too attached, and that's kind of a relief. So
I mean, do
yeah,
you ever get
that's
attached to custom order because you still
no,
put your skin and blood and tears and
yeah,
everything?
no, not yet. So there was one, the my Biggie portrait was actually going to be a gift for my sister. It was the first portrait I had made. And when I finished it, I was like, okay, this is way too good for me to give as a gift. So I kept that, and then I made her a Frank Ocean piece because I have no relation to Frank Ocean. I don't really listen to Frank Ocean, and I gave her that. So that was the closest thing. It wasn't a commission; it was a gift, but like that's the closest thing to a piece for someone else that I got connected to.
If your pieces were found by archaeologists like a few hundred years from now, which ones would you want them to find to like truly represent you, to understand you as a person?
Yeah, I think it's the one that you'll see on my business card. It's the Kid Cudi "Man on the Moon" album cover. That one is a portrait, and you could tell it's a face, but it's really yarn all over the place. It's like really colorful and intertwined, and I think that one really represents what I do the most. Like I'm wild, I'm all over the place, I'm colorful, I'm bright, but there's a logic to it. When you step back and look at it, like there's something there, you know? So that's I think the piece that resonates with me the most for sure.
Well, I noticed I started knitting 6 years ago, and at the beginning it was just this little hobby, and then I got more and more into it. And now I sort of catch myself that it's my first thought in the morning, it's my last thought before I go to sleep, and sometimes I even dream a little bit about it. Find the same thing with your art. Like, is that take more and more place in your brain?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just like a yarn thing or an artist thing because I don't know, it's just something about the softness and it's just comforting, you know? It's like you can have a blanket and stuff. Um, I do notice it happening a lot more as well. Um, I think that's just a sign you're on the right track, you know?
So, what's the plans for this year? Like, what are you working on now, and what do you have upcoming that you're looking forward?
Yeah, so right now I'm working on an animal series. So I'm working on the lion. I believe you saw at the event. I have a couple more pieces in that series that I'm working on starting this year. I hope to add to my Black Icon series. I made a new Drake piece actually. Hopefully gonna make other celebrity portraits. And then event-wise, I have a Black History Month show at the end of February in Montreal. I also have a couple shows in Ottawa throughout this month, and it's really just that finding the markets, finding the shows to really find my target audience because I've been making art for a while, but I've only been trying to do it as a business for the last 2-3 years, and I'm still learning about how do I interact with people and find what they like so I could sell to them, or maybe they think of me when they think of their next gift. Like what do I need to do? So it's a learning process. So this year I want to do a lot more in-person shows so that I could learn, what people need from me as an artist.
Does it feel strange when you come to like live show and people come to you to talk to you and they feel like they know you just because of all your Instagram posts?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird, yeah. But I mean, I like that. That's kind of the reason I'm putting myself out there. Like we spoke about, like being honest, being vulnerable online. It's so that people can feel like they have a friend, So it's validating when they come and say like, oh, like I saw you online. Oh, I laughed. Like one of the big things, like right now, I'm mostly on Instagram. I don't really like TikTok. I don't like I'm gonna start doing YouTube now that I realize the importance of it. But I was always on Instagram, and I never had like the hugest following. And at the beginning, I was like, I felt bad about it. But after COVID, we got out more, and people were coming up to me, like either friends or people that I used to know, but people that follow me on Instagram, and they were like, "I saw your post, and it really got me like back into making comic books." And I was like, whoa, you didn't comment on any of my posts. I didn't see you liking all my stuff, but I had an impact on what you're doing. Then I'm doing the right thing, you know? So a couple of those moments happened to me recently, and I'm like, okay, I don't need all the likes. I don't need all this online. I need to know that people in real life are benefiting from what I'm doing. So
I mean,
I'm
it
happy with it.
definitely have this ripple effect, right? That we don't know. Like you don't
Yeah.
know if people look at your picture on Instagram and it inspires them to try some, even if it's different arts, right? But just
Yeah.
the idea that you being an engineer working and yet finding time to do your art, it might inspire somebody to give art a try. Or
Mhm.
they play with yarn suddenly, or they play with glue gun because they saw you doing it,
Yeah.
or just you saying something that strikes a chord with your audience. So it's really the unknown effect of what you
Yeah.
put out there.
Yeah.
Do you have any other plans for the pun books that you did?
So I'm slowly as because now that I released the pun book, I'll get a lot of DMs of people telling me their jokes. So when I find a really good one, I put it on my notes tab, you know, just for if I could get to another 101, I might drop part two. So
Do you
we'll
have
see.
one new favorite one that's
Oh man,
in
oh
the
man,
part
where's my
two?
phone? Okay, early access. Okay, here we go. See if I could find it. Now, when I say I have a good one, I mean it's so bad you're gonna cringe, but it's hard to even say them because some of them you're like, will it even make sense if you're not reading it? But I'll give you the first. So right now I only have 10. Okay, so I need to get to 101.
91 to go.
Yeah. So I goes, I bought $100 bet. I bought $100 belt that didn't fit. Huge waist. There you go. In Hawaii, in Hawaii, you can't laugh out loud. You can only give aloha. Oh, that's so bad. That's what I love about the jokes is really something that brings people together, and you're just like when people open my book and they're just like, oh no, that's that's what I want. That's what I'm looking for.
And we're gonna put also in the description of this video the link to your the Amazon link. So if you guys want
Perfect.
more of those jokes, you know how
That's
to.
a good one.
I'm gonna put all the information about you, how they can find you, and
Perfect.
everything in the description of this video. So guys, give Akin a follow on Instagram or buy one of the prints or just buy one of those joke books and have some fun time. I hope to see you again in some exhibition in the future to see what else you create. I loved seeing your
Definitely.
portraits at Vogue and it was really striking. It's like nothing I've seen before.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for being my guest today, Akin.
Yeah, thanks for talking to me. It was a great time.
Thank you. you.